Around here, they like to say, everybody knows everything. What if the truth was, nobody knows anything?
I got a feeling today is the day.
Today is the day. I can feel him this time. I can feel him.
Good to see you, John. Took so long to find you. What do you say?
Say I'm not called John anymore.
It's funny, huh?
Where would you want to find me?
My husband has never seen your face. You were right about him.
He's violent with you. What's this?
Just a little scratch.
Little scratch, huh?
I want you to take him out on your boat and drop him in the ocean for the sharks.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 38 of the DNA Film Wars podcast. Today we're talking about Serenity.
Directed by Stephen Knight.
Written by Stephen Knight. Starring Anne Hathaway, Matthew McConaughey, and Jason Clarke. I said that reverse order what I meant to, but oh well.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so I guess, Dylan, we just walked out. What are your initial thoughts?
This movie's bad.
This movie's real bad.
This movie's real bad. I don't know Anne Hathaway could be this bad. I didn't know Matthew McConaughey could be this bad. Jason Clarke is Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke? He's Jason Clarke.
I didn't know. Oof.
Yeah, this movie...
it's a big oof.
we'll talk about it in detail, but this movie overall is a total and complete boat wreck, not a train wreck.
Yeah, that's not funny.
This movie is laughably bad.
It's bad.
But I guess we'll go ahead and
let's go ahead and walk through it.
Jump in it. So the beginning of the movie, it is established that Matthew McConaughey.
Well, let's start out with the opening shot. All right, I'll give it this. This opening shot of this movie is actually, it's pretty. It's a pretty shot. We start out with a pan in of this ocean, and then you see this boat out in the distance, and we pan in close to the boat, and then we start going up, and we get.
Well, actually, it starts under the water.
That's true. That's fair.
And then it comes out of the water.
It's a pretty shot. I like it. I can hang with it.
It's a nice little shot.
It. After that, it just goes downhill.
So we established that Matthew McConaughey is running this little boat where he takes out tourists to tuna fish. But he's after this one specific tuna fish, and he thinks he has it hooked. So he, at knife point, forces his paying customers into the cabin while he tries to catch this fish.
For hours, it is implied.
And he gives that to the boat, and he thinks it's out of energy, but it's not. So when he tries to hook it, it gets away. So, I didn't know they kept the plot of this movie under wraps pretty well. So I really wasn't sure what to expect. So I was. Of
course, I've only seen the trailer for this movie one time.
Yeah, I've only seen it once or twice. So I was kind of thinking, okay, is this gonna be is this the whole movie gonna be him trying to track down this fish, kind of like a Ahab and the whale story or something? Not really.
And also, the big question is where would Anne Hathaway tie into that? And your initial question.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew Anne Hathaway I knew that she was his wife and that she was getting beaten up by her new husband, and so I knew she was gonna come in later. So, but anyway, so we have all this scene, and we realize that his deckhand is not very happy with him because he has not been making a lot of money.
He's played by the same guy from Captain Phillips. I'm the captain now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know his name.
I don't either.
But he's a guy.
I'm sure IMDb does. His name is Djimon Hounsou?
Yeah, sure.
And Diane Lane is also in this film. She is paying Matthew McConaughey for his services, in air quotes. He's a hooker. Not really. I mean, just for her. So, she pays him.
She gives him some extra cash when the fish aren't biting.
Yeah.
Her words, not mine.
That's her words.
She literally says that in this movie. She goes, I give you some cash when the fish aren't biting, and you find my kitty cat for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof.
Okay.
Hey, Diane Lane. Weren't you just Superman's mom a couple years ago?
Oh, yeah. So anyway, all this is established, and pretty early on we see this little skinny guy with a briefcase chasing after him, but he's always late trying to get.
And you're like, what is this guy doing?
His name is Deal.
I don't think that's his
last name.
That's his last name.
His fake last name.
That's
what they call him, so that's what I'm going to call him, Deal. So, anyway, this little skinny guy can never catch Deal. So, anyway, Anne Hathaway shows up in this movie.
Yes.
And this is the first time that I noticed this really annoying
so bad
camera trick where they pan really from the back of the actor or actress and pan really fast to the front.
Or pan to multiple angles of that actor or actress.
There's one scene later on with Matthew McConaughey where they just do it over and over and over.
And I'm like, stop.
But anyway, so she shows up, and we learn that she is Matthew McConaughey's or Deal's ex-wife. Her name is Karen, and Karen's new husband Frank, who is played by Jason Clarke,
is a douche.
Is very abusive to her. And Karen and Deal have a son together.
His name is Patrick.
He's 13. His name is Patrick, and he is on his computer all day and hides under a blanket and does stuff on his computer while Anne Hathaway and Jason Clarke fight, and Jason Clarke beats her up. So she asked Deal to take out her husband Frank on this boat of his and kill him and leave him for the sharks. So Anne Hathaway, I'm gonna go ahead and say, is absolute garbage in this movie.
She's bad.
She's the worst. I mean, there's a bunch of bad.
This is the worst I've ever seen.
She's the worst actress or actor in this movie, and like her first two line deliveries are terrible, and then it just doesn't get. It gets just worse.
I didn't know she could be this bad because she's a pretty talented actress.
She's a talented actress.
I don't know what happened. I guess the writing didn't do any.
The writing is terrible for her character, so that's not helping her.
She has probably some of the most cringy dialogue in the entire movie.
She has the most cringy dialogue in the entire movie.
There's no probably about it. You got a fair point. It's bad.
It's bad. It's like every word.
We'll get to that closer to the end.
Yeah, so. Every word that comes out of her mouth is cringeworthy.
And you're just like, oof, please stop.
Yeah, please stop talking. And so anyway.
Someone put that thing out of its misery.
So anyway, Anne Hathaway brings her husband down.
Yes. Or he shows up. Unexpectedly.
Early, yep. So he gets on the. First of all, Matthew McConaughey's character Deal is like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Not doing it. Ain't gonna happen.
And then the guy Jason Clarke shows up at his boat and offers him $10,000. And
well, we have this really awkward scene before we have this scene on the boat between Jason Clarke's character and Matthew McConaughey's character of Frank and Dill. So Jason Clarke shows up. Anne Hathaway's kind of in the bathroom, and it's assumed that she just got out of the shower or out of the tub or whatever. And Jason Clarke just busts the hotel door open or whatever, and scares the ever-loving crap out of Anne Hathaway's character Karen. And it's implied, and then she walks out, and then he's like, I had to pay for a leaderjet to get here this early. And he's also drunk. He's been drinking, and he drinks a lot of rum in this movie, as well as Matthew McConaughey does too. But he makes her disrobe, and then he caresses her and points out flaws with her body and little scratches and stuff. And then it's implied that he beats her
with his belt. Yeah. So.
And then we flash forward.
The relationship is really screwed up. So then we go to the boat. Jason Clarke. First of all, first time Deal declines and Jason Clarke, Frank is like, okay, well, I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'll give you $10,000, blah, blah, blah.
And he's like,
So then I think Anne Hathaway later basically shames Dill into taking him because she's like, what about your son, Patrick?
I've always still loved you.
Yeah. No, that was later. That was after the first trip on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
That was after the first trip on the boat where she has that scene. So anyway, he takes him out the first time. He doesn't kill him. They just go on a fishing trip. Nothing really much happens.
They come back.
They come back with a shark. He caught a shark. And then he... And
we get some terrible writing of just Jason Clarke saying terrible things and being douchey and Jason Clarke. Yeah. And he's Jason Clarke in this movie. I mean, if I had to assume that Jason Clarke has a personality, it's pretty similar to this. maybe not quite as abusive, but he's probably not the coolest guy to be around.
Yeah, he just that look. He just has that look of a douchebag, and he pulls it off really well.
Sorry, Jason Clarke, if you ever listen to this.
Yeah, after that scene, I don't remember all that happens. This is kind of all a blur.
Well, after that scene, I think is the scene where which I'm trying to block this movie out as soon as we finish recording this because it's so bad. I think we have that scene between after he goes and meets with Diane Lane again, and he's like, I got an early morning, and then he goes out and it's raining or whatever, right?
Well, first of all, I was going to talk about the scene where he dives into the water naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also after a scene with Diane Lane, I'm pretty sure.
This is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the movie where you see...
And then it's also the same scene where we get that stupid panning shot. That's awful.
And he dives into the water completely naked, and his son is also in the water, seemingly also naked. And they're like trying to swim
and you're
each
like,
other.
oof.
Like, ooh, this... And you see his butt a lot.
And if you look real close in a silhouette, you can see other things.
You can see other things too. Like I'm just like, I did not need to see this much naked Matthew McConaughey. But anyway, so then he gets out, and then we had the scene sometime later where Anne Hathaway comes to him on the boat, and she's basically like,
right before the second time that he takes this
she's
guy
like,
out.
you've got to. I'll give you $10 million right now. You need to kill him. They have a really awkward. Like she's like, oh, I still love you, da.
She's like, I kept the ring from when we were
kids. He's like, he calls her out. He's like, you don't
like,
still
that's
love
not
me.
the same ring.
Yeah, you don't care. Like, I'm just doing this. You're gonna bring my son to me after.
And blah 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 blah. And then she says the line, "What if I'm still the girl on the bridge?"
And he rips her clothes off.
Oof.
And
then he sees all the scratches and stuff on her back and like bruises.
She makes this really ugly crying face, and then they have the
most awkward sex scene I think I've seen in a while.
And then he
awkwardly stops.
Yeah, and then he's like, okay, I'm done. That's it. And
he's like, I win. I beat him. I was like, huh?
And he's like, bring me my son tomorrow. Da. So anyway,
God Almighty,
we're getting closer to the end of this movie.
Thank
God. Oh, but the plot twist before we go back out on the boat.
Oh, well, we have to have this whole scene. Okay, so we have this whole scene of pretty much its exposition explaining, here's our big plot twist. Boom, here we go.
I mean, I'd already figured it out.
You figured it out. I think I kind of figured it out, but then you whispered it to me, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely what it is.
Yeah, because they have intercut this movie with scenes of the kid saying coding on his computer. So, anyway, so the skinny guy finally catches up to Dill, and they meet in his house. And he's like, I got something in the briefcase I'd have to show you. He opens up the briefcase. It's a really fancy fish finder. But he says he accidentally... See, Dill has gotten kind of drunk, or put some drinks in him, so he accidentally lets the line slip, I am the rules.
And he's like, what?
He's like, what? So then he slams the guy up against the wall and puts a knife to his neck and is like, tell me what's going on here. And so, this is where we learn the big plot twist. Is that this entire movie is a video game being coded by Matthew McConaughey's character's son. So...
Patrick.
So then Dill has like a total...
meltdown.
I think there is at least up to a point in this movie where you could read it as either what they tell you it is or that Dill is just having a complete... Like he has PTSD to the max and is just having a complete breakdown.
Because we've also gotten a little bit of backstory saying, he went to war, he never came back the same.
Yeah.
Or he didn't really come back at all, which I guess we'll find out later on.
He didn't come back
at all.
But I think there is a reading of this movie, if you really want to look, that maybe he just has a severe PTSD and he's just completely lost it. But they make it really hard to see that reading by the end of this movie.
Yes. But we get into this, and we have the scene, and Matthew McConaughey starts having this breakdown. He gets out these maps. He's like, this can't be real. He wakes up, basically. He thinks it's a dream, and then
he can't get up at first. Like, until 8 o'clock when he's supposed to get up, he can't move.
Yeah, and then he starts looking at maps, and he's like, all right, and he's, flipping out, and he looks at this one map, and he's like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then he pulls out a bigger map that's supposed to be,
the whole world.
The whole world, I guess, and all it is just this tiny little island in the middle of this map. And he's like flipping out.
And he goes back to the little store clerk that we've seen that knows everything about everyone. He's like, maybe that's the joke is like we say that everyone in Plymouth knows everything, but what if none of us know anything? And he asked her.
And he makes a phone call.
Well, he asked her, can you tell me where exactly we are in the world? And she just doesn't answer him.
Yeah, she says some line it's almost like she's in a video game an NPC. She just has specific lines that she's coded to say.
Yeah.
Which I guess is basically what she is.
And but through all this, the characters in this game that's in his daily life of being trying to convince, like they all
Convince
know
him, yeah.
he's gonna try to kill this man, and they're like,
they're all trying to convince him not to. So they're all like offering him things. Like the lady at the
Yeah.
store is offering him like special hooks and stuff. Like, hey, go catch your big tuna or whatever.
And I think this is
Big
like
tuna.
what this is supposed to be is like the kid's conscious. Like he's writing his conscience
Yeah.
into the game. It's like a war. Like should I do it? Should I not?
Should
It's
I
like
not?
the rules.
Which
say
we're
I
getting
should-
interjections of the fact that he wants to kill his father
Yeah.
in real life too, or
Yeah,
his
he has
stepfather.
his knife that he has.
He's
in the
also
door.
coded into the game.
Yeah, he's also coded into the game. And but anyway, so we go through all this. He's having this meltdown.
He ends up he has a card from the man who comes and visits him, who works for a company called Fontaine, which is a bait and tackle company. And he makes a phone call and he calls him. He's like, I have is this guy there, which I can't remember his character's name at this moment in time. But he calls and they're like, yeah, he's real. What do you mean? Yeah, he's real. And they're like, okay, well, I have a message for him. They're like, well, what's your name? And he doesn't ever give him his name. And they're like, well, we can't leave a message. And then
He just says,
then
"Thank you."
Matthew McConaughey continues to go on his rant and tangent and flipping out and goes and talks to a couple other characters. And yes, one guy, he's like, I can't really remember things. How long have I been here? And the guy answers back to something to the effect of, sometimes it all seems like we've been here for forever. And he's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, right before he goes back on the boat, earlier in this movie, he told his lovers, the woman that pays him for sex,
Diane Lane's character,
told her that maybe she could get her son to come down from Miami. I think is where he was at. And,
yeah, he's pumping gas in Miami.
So right before he gets back on the boat, he actually shows up and is like, "Hey, I want to get on the boat with you," and he's basically says no. After ranting for a little bit, he says no. But anyway, so we get on this boat.
First we have another scene with the Fontaine character guy who is the rules, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Before this, oh no, yeah, okay, yeah.
Matthew McConaughey's he's sitting on this little part of this beach on a log, and he's super drunk. He's been drinking rum all day. We were led to assume, and the rules guy shows up, and he's they're having this whole spiel, and he's like, I know what the game wants me to do, and he's like. And the rules guy's like, well, you know the creator, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I know who the creator is. And he tells him who it is. And he's like, well, and this is what he wants me to do. And the rules guy's like, well, if I'm the rules and that's what the game is supposed to be and the rules are changed, then I got to help you. So he helps him, I guess.
Just right before this scene, we have learned that the deckhand, deckhand that Matthew McConaughey had at the beginning of the movie, hired 6 guys to go break Jason Clarke's hand so that he couldn't get on the boat.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that scene. It is the cringiest scene, I think, in the entire movie.
Yeah, and so anyway, he has his hand wrapped up and everything. And,
and
Hathaway
wakes up.
Karen is desperate for him to get on this boat.
Oof.
So after he gets his hand wrapped up and everything, she puts his broken hand around her neck and is like, try to pretend my neck is the fishing rod. Try to choke me. Oh, you're so strong. Oh my god.
Oh god.
It is terrible.
Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad.
This is the start of the movie. This is getting into the last 15 minutes or so, and she calls him daddy. I swear to God.
I think there's no way she doesn't call him daddy less than 40 times in the last 15 minutes of this movie.
Oh my god, it's terrible.
No less.
But anyway, so she cons him into getting on this boat. She fills him up with pain meds and rum.
That's not a good combination.
So he's out of it. So
they get him on this boat, all right.
Dill and Karen and Frank are all 3 on this boat. Turns out that the young guy we talked about earlier, that
it's Diane
Lane's son, has stowed away on the boat, so that complicates their plans.
So like, oh boy, what do we do?
So he finally hooks the big fish again that we've been following.
The big tuna who we've come to find out at this point, his name is Justice, which is
Justice
the kid wants justice for his mother.
Mom, yeah. So since Jason Clarke is completely out of it, they here you go.
He's been wanting to catch this tuna. He's like, yeah, I want the rod. Give me the rod.
And so they give him the rod. And of course, they have that thing with you when you're tuna fishing or whatever, where they strap the vest on you and you
basically strap the rod to you.
Yeah, and it pulls.
And Matthew McConaughey's holding it back. He's like, "Are you sure you're ready for this? This fish is about to be yours." And Jason Clarke's like, "Yeah, man, I'm ready."
At this point, he has sent the kid up to the wheelhouse so he doesn't see this.
Yeah,
and he kind of pushes him.
Kinda, not really. He just lets go, basically. Yeah. He lets go of the rod, and then the fish pulls him in, and he yells, "Man overboard!" And we're led to assume he's gone forever.
He's gone. He's drugged to his death.
It's bad.
So anyway, so up until this point, I have to say this movie has been absolute garbage.
Terrible garbage.
This is edited
The
together
worst
so
dialogue.
choppily. Like the storylines don't flow at all. I will say though, that I think that the last.
Yeah, I guess let's go ahead and get into the last like 5 minutes.
The last 5 minutes of this movie, I think, tacked on to a better movie, kind of work. He has a call, like him and his son. Like his son, it's been revealed to us that his son, during this last scene, his intercut scenes, his son walks out of his room with the knife, like in the real world.
In the real world, and kills his stepfather.
Kills his stepdad.
And he's been arrested.
He's been arrested, and he was sent to this psychiatric ward for a little bit, but then he was released back into the custody of his mom. But he has a phone call, like Dill's character in the game has a phone call from his son, and it's actually, I think,
which we also find out during this same kind of somewhat interjection, the interjections in this ending part of the movie, that Matthew McConaughey's character was an Iraqi veteran.
Yeah.
He was killed in Iraq in like 2006.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of why he's been creating this game with his father in it, because he wants his father back or whatever.
Yeah. So
then we get this ending scene that Aaron's talking about.
So anyway, he has a phone call from his son, which is kind of actually, I think, I mean, like I said, if I had felt anything for these characters before, like I feel like this phone call would have been a decent phone call. I think it's some of Matthew McConaughey's probably the best acting he does in this movie is right here.
It is the best acting he does in this movie.
And I think it's kind of heartfelt, honestly. And then right at the end, like, we see the game being reconstructed as the kid recodes it, and then he codes himself into the game to go see his dad, and I think all that's actually decently executed. I kind of like the very ending of this movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Because this movie is, I think it's an hour and 46 minutes, and 6 minutes are credits, so the first hour and 30 minutes to 35 minutes are terrible.
Total garbage, hot garbage. This is worse. I've seen 3 movies this year: Replicas, Glass, and this movie.
Yep.
None of the 3 have. We didn't review Replicas.
We did not review Replicas. We just decided to go see that,
yeah.
And it was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad, but we have determined that I have determined that I would rather watch that movie every day than watch this movie once a week.
I apologize to Keanu Reeves.
Lord, whatever bad things I said about Keanu Reeves in that movie, I take back. Keanu Reeves, you're a freaking saint compared to this garbage.
Oh my god.
That movie was actually somewhat entertaining.
So you know what? What's funny is like 2 of the first 3 movies that I've seen this year have a good shot of ending up in my top 5 worst movies of the year at the end of the year. But that's January. I think it's because it's January.
It is still January,
and and it's January. That's where companies like release movies that they think are going to
like
bomb
lesser companies usually too. You're like, oh, who is that?
Yeah, like at the beginning of Replicas, especially, I was looking at those companies they were listing on. I was like, who are these people? And same thing with this movie. I was like,
who are these people? Well, what company is this?
But anyway, so I guess I'll go ahead and wrap up my opinions of this movie.
Man, give me your final thoughts, man.
Yeah, this movie is overall is terrible. Like one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah.
I can't say. You know, I was thinking back to my top 5 worst movies from last year. And none of the movies in that list come close to being as bad as this movie.
And I think your worst, you said it was Jurassic World. Like I could watch Jurassic World all day long.
Yeah.
Compared to this.
I mean, thinking back on that list, like, you know, I put Jurassic World at the top just because of how disappointed I was. Like, if I'm talking like from a pure quality standpoint, probably Darkest Minds was the worst. That and Robin Hood are running a really close race.
So let me ask you this while you're saying your final thoughts. Compared to Robin Hood, how... Like, if you had to pick between the two, like, you could only watch one movie continuously for the rest of your life.
Kill myself. No, just kidding. I mean, Robin Hood, because Robin Hood, at least I can follow the story, even if it's stupid, and there are some fun, like, you can laugh at it because it's stupid, and there are some decent action sequences.
Robin Hood was terrible.
Robin Hood was bad, but, I mean, would you...
It doesn't come close to this, I don't think. This is truly worse than that movie.
Like,
and it's bad.
Because in Robin Hood, like, what's bad about this movie is Robin Hood knew it was ridiculous.
This movie, I think,
movie was written as
it's trying to take itself so serious. Like,
this movie was written as a high concept, like, sci-fi, twisty...
Like, drama with a sci-fi twist.
Yeah, and like,
and it thinks it's so clever.
It thinks it's really clever, and like I said, it was written as a high concept movie that you had to think about, but it's just executed. When you do stuff like that, especially with the twist that I think this twist could work.
Yeah, I think one of the comments
movie.
you made when we were on the way home from seeing this is, I was like, well, what do you think? And you're like, well, I think that it's a neat concept, and in the hands of a better writer and better director, it could have been way more entertaining and way more interesting. And I think you got a fair point there.
If you see that I look at that last 5 minutes. That last 5 minutes, I think, are pretty decent. If you take that last 5 minutes and have that same tone and kind of like heartfelt relationship with him and his son.
Like, what's a good dramatic sci-fi film you've seen recently?
Like Annihilation, like
something like that. Like if you put this, if you put this in the hands of, say, that director of that film, this could have been so much better, because that film is well written.
He did Annihilation and Arrival.
Well directed.
Both are.
Did he do Arrival?
Yeah,
too?
I believe, isn't it?
I don't know if that's the same guy.
I'm pretty sure it is Annihilation and I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Anyway, point is
something like that.
Something like one of those two movies, both high concept sci-fi movies. I mean, we didn't talk about Arrival, but I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Arrival, but it was a pretty decently executed high concept sci-fi movie. So it's doable. Is what I'm trying to say. It's doable.
Oh, could you imagine Chris Nolan making this movie?
No.
It would be 2.5 hours of just mind-boggling. What is this? And then the twist would come along and be like, oh my god.
Yeah. Chris Nolan. I just saw where his new film was slated for release in 2020. So a new Chris Nolan film. I'm excited.
Ooh.
We haven't done a news section in a long time.
We have not. Which is not a whole lot of news to talk about, really.
No, there's a few big trailers we haven't talked about, but I think we'll do that at a later date.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to this movie. I gotta give it a star ranking. I've been debating this, like how bad, like how low am I gonna go here? This is gonna be my lowest ranking I've ever given. I settled on, because I said in the Glass podcast, if you give me good ideas, even if they're not executed very well, I can forgive a lot. This movie has an interesting core concept. There's nothing good surrounding it. So, but because effort, I'll give her 1.5. All right.
1.5. All right. That's a pretty good one.
I guess it'll be an
all right. All right. That's a good one. I like that.
What about you?
No, this movie is absolutely terrible. I'm a fan of Anne Hathaway. I think that she is a very talented actress. I'm a fan of Matthew McConaughey. He's a highly talented actor. I mean, he's done some great work, especially in these past years. He's done some amazing stuff. Free State of Jones is a questionable one. We won't talk about that. Mm-hmm. Jason Clarke is Jason Clarke. I'm not even going to talk about that.
He had 2 movies advertised before this movie.
He did.
He's a busy man. Pet Sematary and
whatever.
That one with Keira Knightley.
I don't care. It's Jason Clarke. But I didn't know Anne Hathaway or Matthew McConaughey could be this bad, and they're absolutely terrible in this movie, especially Anne Hathaway. And I'm so sorry, Anne Hathaway.
You're terrible.
You're so bad in this movie. If you ever hear this, which I'm sure you never will, you're god-awful in this movie. And I think she knows that.
Yeah.
Because she progressively gets worse, I think, throughout the movie.
I think as they were filming...
They must have been filming this, and she's like, what am I making?
She's like, what is this? Why am I in this movie?
The writing in this movie is absolutely terrible. Direction in this film. Stephen Knight wrote and directed this film. If you've heard the name Stephen Knight recently, it's because he did the script from Girl in the Spider's Web.
Girl in the Spider's Web, right?
Oof.
Which was not
a good movie either. So he's not on a hot streak. Which he's actually an Oscar-nominated writer for a movie from 2002. But I don't know what happened. He must have fallen off the deep end or something. Terribly written. The dialogue in this movie is absolutely garbage. It's poorly filmed. The cinematography is got a couple decent shots here and there, but for the most part, it's terrible. Especially like we've talked about, those panning shots are dumb. It's poorly edited. One thing that neither one of us talked about, the score for this movie, it's not that good.
What was it?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's so bad. I can't even. I don't even think I can give it 1.5. I'm gonna give it one big tuna out of 3. Out of 3, because 3 is... One big tuna out of 5. How about that? One big tuna out of 5. As an Office reference, too, there, because, big tuna.
I get it. So, with that all being
It's
said,
terrible. God almighty.
that was our movie for this week. Remember, we are only doing one movie a week. Although I just pumped out a lot of episodes last week. Like, I pumped out, 4 or 5 episodes. 6? Did I do 6?
I don't know. You did,
I did, I did 32 through 37, so that's 5. So I did 5 episodes in 1 week. Man, look at me.
Plus, you pumped out those 2 before pretty quickly, too. So.
Yeah, so look at me go.
But as of right now, if you had to say, looking forward to the end of the year, what do you think the likelihood of this being on your worst movies of 2019 is, and where would it be? As of
I will
right
be
now?
shocked. I will be shocked if it's not number 1.
I think I'll be shocked if it's not number 1. It's terrible.
If I have to sit through a worse movie than this year, I think I'll just walk out. I'll be like, nope, ain't doing it.
I just can't.
Like, if I was a more picky moviegoer, when they did that big plot twist, I think I would have gotten up and walked out.
Oh, it's bad.
But I think, what do we got next week? I feel like there's a big movie coming out next week.
What do we got coming up next week?
Next weekend is Attack of the Clones.
Is next weekend Attack of the Clones?
Next weekend is Attack of the Clones.
All right, boys and girls. Well, get ready for episode 2 of our Star Wars look back.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones.
One of the worst Star Wars movies.
Followed by the weekend after that, I said 1 movie a week, but we got 2 on the schedule: Lego Movie and Cold Pursuit.
Liam Neeson.
Here we go, Liam Neeson right here.
That movie might not be terrible.
It might not be terrible.
It looks entertaining.
Actually, to fill out the month of February, the 17th, the weekend of the 17th, we have Alita. And then we have 2 movies again on the 24th. 2 movies that I own on DVD, so this will be easier. We're going to watch the first How to Train Your Dragon, and we're also going to watch the first Avengers film to get ready for the sequels to both of that. So,
looking forward to those.
Looking forward to those. Definitely looking forward to next week. I enjoyed talking about the Phantom Menace. I'm sure we'll have a
lot more negative things to say about this one.
We'll probably have some more negative things to say about Attack of the Clones. Like I said, I'm not going to rip any of the prequels too bad, but Attack of the Clones is the most deserving
of the rip.
So we'll definitely have a fun time with that one. We'll get around to watching it sometime this week.
I'm sure.
So anyway.
With that being said, let me go ahead and plug our social medias as I always do. We are up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are at DNA Film Wars, all lowercase, no space on all those. So, give us a like or a follow and tell your friends about us.
If you have any specific questions or comments, you can always contact us at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. We are up on all major podcatching services. Please feel free to leave us a review.
We're also up on YouTube with our audio files, which
have been getting very, very few
views.
Listens or views or whatever.
Or whatever you want to call them. Like we always say, I guess if you're listening to this and you don't already know that it's up on YouTube,
you're not going to be listening to it.
You're probably not going to listen to it on YouTube. But,
so why are we complaining to you?
If you happen to not want to listen on one of those podcatching services, you can also get
or if you know someone
who doesn't like to listen on those podcatching services, YouTube. There it is.
You can just subscribe to our YouTube channel to make it look better. Okay, that's all you have to do. But anyway, as always, thank you for listening. I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.
I need you to deliver me from temptation.
Are you going to take him out?
You're not right in your mind.
My wife says you're being a little difficult.
There's something wrong.
You're gonna tell me what this is all about?